Some of our kitchen cabinets are just basic shelves, and that quickly turns into daily frustration. Especially with our pantry cabinet, it's impossible to find what we need. We lose track of what we have at home, and pulling out food containers and supplies is a hassle every time. In this video I show you how I tackled this problem and transformed our kitchen cabinet into an organized, easy access space. Let's dive in and reclaim order in the kitchen. To make our pantry items easier to access, I'm swapping out the fixed shelves for full extension drawers. To accommodate containers of various shapes and even taller items, like bottles, I make the drawers in different heights. To make access even smoother, the bottom drawer will also double as the cabinet's storefront, so there's no need to open a door before pulling out drawers. For mounting the full extension slides securely and ensuring they can hold a good amount of weight, I add a plywood frame along both side panels and the center divider. I started the frame by cutting pieces from a 12mm plywood sheet using a table saw. Since all the pieces are the same width, this part goes pretty quickly. Honestly, if you're working solo, it might even be easier to use a handheld circular saw with a guide rail. To make assembly easier, I joined the frame pieces with dominoes. Of course, pocket holes or dowels would work just as well here. I didn't glue the pieces though, since they'll be screwed directly into the cabinet anyway. To keep the frame's width of the middle piece consistent with the center divider, I added extra support strips between the frames. I used leftover scraps for this part. Not the prettiest solution, but since it will be hardly visible, I'm fine with it. I then spaced out and drilled pilot holes with countersinks along the side frames to prepare them for mounting. For the center frame, I used pocket holes instead. With the frames prepped, I could mount them inside the kitchen cabinet, using appropriate screws. One important tip during installation: make sure to set the frame slightly back from the front edge of the cabinet. Once the frames are installed, it's time to mount the full extension slides. To do this, I cut a scrap piece to match the height of the tallest drawer. Place the slides on it, align them with a piece of plywood, and screwed them into the frame. I repeated this process on the other side. Next, I cut the spacer to the height of the second tallest drawer and mounted those lights in the same way. For the bottom two drawers, I used a thinner spacer. With all the slides in place, I measured the dimension for the drawers. Be sure to follow the manufacturer's specifications for the slides here as well. Just like with the frame, I cut the drawer pieces from a sheet of plywood. The side panels and the back pieces for all the drawers are the same size. For the fronts of the bottom drawers, I made them twice as high, as these will support the kitchen cabinet storefront. To minimize waste, it's worth planning the layout of each piece carefully before cutting everything to length. To keep the bottoms of the drawers securely in place and able to support a good amount of weight, I cut grooves into the fronts and the side panels using a table saw. The back panels don't need grooves, since they'll simply rest on the bottom of the drawer. This step could likely be done more quickly with a router table or a plunge router, but the table saw did the job just fine. Once all the grooves are cut, we can go ahead and cut the bottoms from the plywood sheet. Just remember, when measuring the width and length, you also need to account for the grooves. And of course, guess who forgot to do that? Again. After a test assembly, we can glue the parts together. Using the domino joiner isn't an option here, since the panels are too thin, and I'd have to drill all the way through the side panels, even at the shallowest depth setting. Instead, once the glue is dry, I simply reinforce the fronts with dowels. Since the dowels will be visible when the drawers are open, I decided to make them from a piece of walnut. I used a dowel cutter for this, and then I cut out the dowels on the bandsaw. After marking the positions on the drawers, I drilled the dowel holes using a Forstner bit. Next, I tapped the dowels into the holes with wood glue and cut off the excess with a handsaw. Any excess can be sanded down during the finishing process. Since this is my first time using this type of full extension slide and I wasn't sure if my measurements would align, I decided to mount the couplings for the slides ahead of time. And now we arrive at the most fun part: sanding. Using an orbital sander, I sanded all the surfaces to 120 grit. Since we don't need a special surface finish for this project, I didn't focus too much on perfection here. most of the edges I hand rounded to give them a softer look and feel. To guard the drawers against everyday stains and damage, I applied linseed oil. I used the rag from an old t-shirt to rub it in, let it dry, and then wiped off any excess with a fresh rag. And now, it's time to move the drawers into their new home. With these full extension slides, you simply slide the drawers into place and connect them with the couplings. Now we just need to attach the fronts to the bottom drawers. I pre-drilled screw holes in the fronts of the drawers, allowing me to attach the front to the drawer from the inside. I didn't trust the screws, so I also used construction adhesive. During assembly, I first set the screws in place and then applied the adhesive to the front of the drawers. After pressing the front into position and clamping it in place, I fastened it securely with screws. Let's just say that the process didn't go as smoothly as I hoped. After some trial and error, here are the results. I never thought we would be able to fit so much food into this cabinet. Gone are the days where it felt like we had to climb into the cabinet just to reach something. In the next video, we'll tackle the cabinet for our cookware. Until then, check out one of these videos.